I told my wife I cheated. She didn't cry. She smiled, and now I cannot sleep. Hi, guys. You're welcome to today's story. Please, if you've not subscribed to my channel, do so to subscribe now and turn on the notification button so that you'll be notified once I drop a post. Without wasting much of our time, let's dive into the story.
I never planned to hurt her. It started with one mistake one night, one drink too many, one excuse I kept feeding myself until it grew claws. Her name was Amanda, a coworker from marketing. She laughed at my jokes during lunch breaks, brushed her fingers against mine when she passed files across the desk, and told me I deserved to feel seen. It was just once. That's what I kept saying in my head, just once. No emotion. No love. Just an empty hotel room and a silence afterward that buzzed louder than anything I'd ever heard. But when I got home, the guilt followed me. It clung to my skin, seeped into my clothes, and crawled under the covers with me at night. My wife, Lola, lay peacefully beside me, breathing slow and soft, and every time she shifted to rest her head on my chest, I wanted to confess. But I didn't. I couldn't. I told myself it would ruin her. That she didn't deserve the pain. That I'd carry the shame alone and become a better husband, faithful, devoted, present. But the truth is, I was scared. Terrified. Not of her rage, but of her heartbreak. Lola had this innocence about her, this quiet grace. She hummed when she cooked. Danced when she thought I wasn't watching. She'd send me texts that said, "Don't forget your smile today," and pray over my shoes before I left the house. And me? I'd kissed another woman behind her back. The guilt started to bleed into everything. I couldn't eat. Couldn't sleep. Her laughter made my stomach twist, because I didn't deserve it anymore. Her touch felt too soft, too kind. I started avoiding eye contact. I'd flinch when she said, "I love you." Because how do you accept love when your hands are stained? I began rehearsing my apology in the mirror night after night. Whispering it like a coward. Like if I practiced it enough, I'd finally find the strength. But nothing prepared me for the moment I finally told her. It was a Sunday night. Quiet. Intimate. We just finished dinner: grilled chicken, mashed yams, wine. I said her name. She looked up with those soft brown eyes. And I told her. I cheated. Silence. She blinked once, then twice. No tears. No frown. No explosion. Then. She smiled. Not a forced, trembling, broken smile. A calm one. A knowing one. And just like that, I wasn't sure who the villain was anymore. I expected screaming. I expected tears. I didn't expect her smile. Her fork paused mid-air. That was it. No crash. No gasp. Just a tiny clink of metal against porcelain and a stillness so complete it made the room feel colder. I had barely finished the sentence. My voice cracked on the word cheated, and I swear I felt something in my chest crack with it. But Lola? She didn't scream. She didn't even flinch. Instead, she slowly wiped her mouth with the napkin folded neatly on her lap, dabbed the corners of her lips like we were still guests at a dinner party, and looked up at me with the gentlest smile I'd ever seen. "I figured," she said, as if I'd told her I forgot to take out the trash. Then, with a softness that chilled me, she asked, "Dessert?" I blinked. "What?" "Dessert," she repeated. "I made parfait. It's in the fridge." She stood up. Walked past me. Barefoot, humming. And I sat there, stunned, trying to stitch my mind back together. Had she not heard me? Did she think I was joking? Was this some kind of delayed reaction? But no, there was no confusion in her eyes. No denial. Just acceptance. Like this was old news. Like my betrayal wasn't even betrayal, it was confirmation. I watched her move about the kitchen like nothing had changed. Like everything was still fine. I expected rage. I expected heartbreak. But what I got was a woman who had already processed the funeral of our marriage. And moved on. And that's when it hit me. Her smile wasn't forgiveness. It was strategy. It was power. It was terrifying. She brought the dessert over parfait in tall glass cups and placed one in front of me like we were still playing husband and wife. She even kissed my forehead. You were honest, she whispered. That's all I ever wanted. But there was something in her tone. Something too calm. Too rehearsed. Like a line in a play she'd performed in her head 1,000 times. I didn't touch the parfait. Suddenly, I didn't trust anything on the table. She picked up her spoon and took a bite. Cold yogurt. Fresh fruit. Smiling still. And God help me, I smiled back. Because I didn't know what else to do. Because I couldn't read her anymore. And because deep down, I felt it. This wasn't the reaction of a broken heart. It was the beginning of something I couldn't name. The hairs on my neck stood up. The woman in front of me was no longer the woman I married. Or maybe she had always been this. And I was just too blind to see it. Cheating was a mistake, but confessing? That might have been suicide. It's funny, the things you start to notice once guilt stops blinding you. The first few days after I confessed, I moved like a man waiting for the storm. Braced for yelling. For tears. For the suitcase by the door. But none of it came. Instead, silence wrapped around us like a second skin. Polite conversation. Shared meals. Even the occasional kiss on the cheek. But underneath it all, nothing. No warmth. No questions. Just stillness. Too still. Lola never brought up the affair. Not once. But her silence wasn't peace, it was pressure. And it started getting to me. She was going out more. Not the kind of going out that involved friends or errands. She started dressing up like it was date night. Without me. The yellow dress. The new heels I hadn't seen before. Perfume that wasn't mine to notice. She came home late. Always humming. Always glowing. Her phone? Never left her side. Always screen down. Always on silent. And when it buzzed, it buzzed a lot. She'd glance at it, tap out a reply, and smile. Not at me. Never at me. At first, I told myself I deserved it. That this was karma pulling up a seat at my table. But the longer it went on, the more something twisted inside me. The sheets started smelling different. Like sandalwood and sweat that didn't belong to me. The shower ran longer. Sometimes twice. Her red lipstick was gone now, it was something darker. Wilder. A color she never wore for me. She started locking the bathroom door. She started playing music when she changed. She stopped asking where I was. And that night, the night she texted and giggled, I snapped. I was watching TV, or at least pretending to. She was curled up on the armchair across from me, lit only by the blue light of her phone screen. She giggled, then caught herself and smiled into her palm. Who was that? I asked, trying to sound casual. She looked at me. Right at me. And said, "Don't worry. I'll tell you. Eventually." Then went back to her screen. I sat there, frozen. That one sentence? It echoed louder than any fight we'd ever had. It wasn't just dismissive, it was deliberate. Meant to sting. And it did. Because in that moment, I knew I wasn't the only one with secrets anymore. She wasn't hurt. She wasn't healing. She was planning. She was changing the rules of the game I thought I was playing. And I had no idea how to catch up. I cheated once. But she was rewriting the entire story. There's a different kind of nausea that comes when your worst suspicion turns into proof. Not fear. Not regret. Just sickness. Cold, steady, and permanent. I did what desperate, doubting men do. I hired a private investigator. I told myself it was paranoia, that I was just trying to ease my guilt by finding someone else to blame. But deep down, I think I already knew. The report came in a black envelope, handed to me like a weapon. And when I opened it, I understood why Lola had smiled. Photos. Clear. Undeniable. Her wrapped around someone else in hotel lobbies. Getting into his car. Holding hands in a place we once called ours. But it wasn't the betrayal that broke me. It was the face. Daniel. My cousin. My best man. The boy I grew up with, who shared my bed when our parents couldn't afford separate rooms. The man who toasted to our love on our wedding night, smiling at me like I was the luckiest man alive. They weren't just lovers. They had been together. Long before I ever touched that woman in the office. Long before I confessed. Long before I even knew something was wrong. I thought my affair was a fire I set. But it was smoke from a house already burned to the ground. And worse? It wasn't an accident. She knew. She knew what she was doing when she kissed me goodnight with his taste still on her lips. She knew when she held my hand in church. When she cried beside my mother's hospital bed. When she tucked the blanket under my chin like I was still her everything. She wasn't hurting. She was waiting. And when I slipped. When I made my stupid, pathetic mistake, she used it. Not to leave. Not to confront me. But to trap me. To let me carry the weight of guilt while she floated above it all, innocent in everyone's eyes. Loyal wife. Betrayed angel. But she was never the victim. She was the author of this story. And I was just the final chapter. I thought I was the villain. Turns out I was the final chapter in someone else's story of payback. She filed for divorce before I could blink. No fights. No negotiations. Just papers neatly stacked, signed, and dated like she'd been waiting for this exact moment. Like she knew I would fall, and all she had to do was stay standing. The house? In her name. Transferred 6 months ago. The cars? Gifts on paper, anyway. The savings? Gone. Quietly bled out through joint withdrawals I didn't notice, too busy buying flowers and forgiveness. All I had left were screenshots, blurry memories, and a court date circled in red. She didn't yell. She didn't cry. She never raised her voice. Lola destroyed me with elegance. And when she left, she made it poetic. She wore the perfume I used to love, soft and clean, and kissed me on the cheek. The same way she did the night we first met. Except this time, it didn't feel like a beginning. It felt like a funeral. No tears. No final argument. Just silence and the faint scent of goodbye. I stood at the window as her Uber rolled out of the driveway. Then my phone buzzed. One last message. Don't feel bad. I loved you. Once. That once hit harder than the cheating, the lies, the setup, everything. Because it meant it had been real. And she had buried it long before I even saw the shovel. I sat in the kitchen. The same place I confessed my one stupid mistake. The same table where she smiled and passed me dessert like I hadn't just cracked the foundation of our marriage. But now I see. She never cried because she had already let go. She wasn't just 2 steps ahead of me. She was someone else entirely. A stranger I used to love. And I was just the man who thought she'd never walk away.
This is the end of the story. What do you think about the story? Do you think that what the woman did is good, or do you think that the man actually got what he deserved? For me, I'm not going to say anything. I'll just sit here and watch your comments in the comment section. Please like, subscribe again if you not, and I'll see you in my next post.